Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the semifinals of the JCSA High School Debating Competition 2023. We are in the advanced stages of this competition right now. With us, we have two excellent teams who have battled rigorously and fiercely so far in this competition to try and secure their place in the grand finals. Of course, the grand finals, which will be held on November 20 during Civil Service Week, a week celebrating the achievements and goals of the institution, the organization running this tournament, of course, being the Jamaica Civil Service Association. Indeed, the stakes are high. The teams have prepared, they have studied rigorously and dissected the arguments and have gained a true appreciation of the motion that we're going to be debating today. And I'll be reminding you of that motion in just a little bit. But before I go ahead and do that, I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about who will be chairing this debate. The adjudicators, of course. Of course, I'll be one of them. I am Ravon Thomas Matthews, which is always a pleasure to be here. I'll be a chair. And with me, of course, we have Najani Stewart, who you'd have been seeing on stream sometimes. He will be the wing adjudicator, one of the wing adjudicators for this debate. And of course, the representative from the JCSA, the incredibly talented and lovely Peter Gay Hodges. Ladies and gentlemen, with all that said, the teams that will be debating today are Ocherius High School in Proposition and the Montego Bay High School for Girls in opposition, and they will be debating the motion. This house would mandate that disabled persons working in public bodies receive a higher salary over their able counterparts. Again, this house would mandate that disabled persons working in public bodies receive a higher salary over their able counterparts. An interesting motion indeed. With all that said, I invite the first speaker from the team, Ocherius High School, to commence this debate.
Mr. Chairman, judges, accused opponents, members of the audience, good morning. The proposition stands boldly this morning to defend the motion. This House would mandate that disabled persons working in public bodies receive a higher salary over their able counterparts. Before I go further in my presentation, I will use a few seconds to define some key terms in our motion. Mandate, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is an official order or commission to do something. Disabled persons, according to the Jamaica Disabilities Act of 2014, is a person who has a long-term mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment which may hinder his full and effective participation in society or on equal basis with other persons. Public bodies is a formally established organization that is publicly funded to deliver a public or government service. Higher salary, according to law and Civil, is a higher regular rate of payment per unit of time. Over the years in Jamaica, disabled persons have been subjected to overt and covert discrimination. This has caused them to shy away from working with the private and public sector. This has stifled the working environment of their specialized skills and the unique perspective of disabled persons, preventing us from creating a more equitable and inclusive working environment. The last population and housing census conducted in Jamaica shows that over 350,000 Jamaicans are living with disabilities and less than 1% are paid in employment. So when we do the calculations, we have about 3,500 disabled persons working in Jamaica. To attract more persons with disabilities to public bodies, it is necessary that we mandate that they receive a higher salary over their able-bodied counterparts. We will make provisions for this in the Disabilities Act of 2014. In this act, under Section 6, it empowers Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities to make improvements for persons with disabilities by facilitating their social and economic development. So the framework is already there. Therefore, the act can be amended to facilitate this proposal. For the intern, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing that 10% of their basic salary. So this will be administered through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. This will be financed by the government through the Consolidated Fund, owing to the fact that, Mr. Speaker, that Jamaica's economy grew by over 2.9% in the first half of 2019. This contributed to Jamaica earning more than we spent, contributing to a primary surplus of over $12.8 billion. So we believe that at this time in our history, it is ample time to make such a move without introducing new taxes or causing a burden to Jamaicans. So with fiscal management, we will be able to empower those unemployed persons in our society as we strive to build a better Jamaica, a more inclusive Jamaica, a Jamaica that caters to all the citizens and especially those that are disabled. This takes on greater significance as we strive to make Jamaica a place to live, work, raise families, and do business. As first speaker, I will highlight how this arrangement will make our public bodies more inclusive and diverse. And secondly, how this arrangement will assist disabled workers with additional challenges they face. Our second speaker will show how this arrangement will motivate disabled persons to pursue jobs in public sector. He will also look and show that this arrangement will not abandon the principle of equal pay for equal work or will contribute to discrimination in another format. While our third speaker will summarize our arguments and look at how this arrangement will help our country to benefit from the contributions of the disabled community and break down some of the barriers in getting disabled persons out for work. We understand that this issue is a complex and contentious one, but despite the complexities, we are of the view that there are compelling reasons to consider offering higher salaries to disabled individuals in public body as a means of promoting diversity and inclusivity. Diversity and inclusion are essential values in modern workplaces. They lead to a more enriched and innovative workforce. By offering higher salaries to disabled workers, the government, through public bodies, can actively signal their commitment to fostering a diversity and inclusivity. When disabled persons are attracted to public bodies, this will help to create a more representative and equitable public body. Research has shown that disabled persons have unique qualities and abilities. Offering higher salaries to these individuals will enable public bodies to benefit from the unique perspective, experiences, and problem-solving skills that these persons will bring to the working environment. This will also send a powerful message that our commitment to equality extends beyond rhetoric to meaningful action. By recognizing and accommodating the unique needs of disabled employees, we foster an environment where everyone, regardless of ability, can contribute fully and thrive in their professional endeavors. We are also knowledgeable of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that by working, coming out of their comfort zones, these disabled persons will encounter additional expenses. So, by offering a higher salary, it will help to compensate them for their unique challenges they face, challenges that able-bodied workers do not. Challenges such as specialized accommodations, disabled persons may require specialized equipment or ergonomic workstation to perform their tasks efficiently. For example, the cheapest prosthetic legs starts from 450,000 Jamaican dollars. Some will also be subjected to longer commutes or accessible transportation or even modified personal vehicles. These costs that can be substantial and can pose a barrier to employment for some. Recently, I was watching a TikTok video of the social media influencer by the name of Lily. She paid over 47,000 for her specialized equipment that would enable her to drive a vehicle. Disabled persons may also have additional medical expenses that can be a significant burden. These too can lead to additional burden to disabled persons. These special needs are not luxuries, Mr. Speaker, but necessities to ensure a level playing field. By offering higher salaries, we ease and help offset some of these challenges and additional financial burden associated with these challenges, making it easier for disabled workers to access the accommodations and supports they need to perform their jobs effectively. But then my opponents may argue, why not equip workplaces with these specialized equipment for all, including disabled persons, to work? Although plausible, let us not forget that disability is unique to the individual and is not standard. For example, when you look at blindness, there are 4 different types of blindness: color blindness, light blindness, slow blindness, and total blindness. So when disabled persons receive this extra salary, they will be able to cater for their unique needs. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that, the first proposition speaker. We now invite the first opposition speaker to open up the debate for that half of the House.
Esteemed judges, astute opponents, fellow teammates, and audience, good morning. Proposition member, your amendment to the Disabilities Act will clash with the Workers' Empowerment Act, which enshrines that all workers, man and woman, should get equal pay regardless of gender and disability. You also seem to confuse the notion of equity versus equality, which will be clarified in this speech. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we gather to deliberate a misguided proposition that advocates for a mandatory higher salary for disabled individuals working in public bodies, juxtaposed against their non-disabled counterparts. While the intention behind their proposal is undoubtedly rooted in promoting inclusivity and addressing the challenges faced by disabled individuals, I stand before you, resolute, to express stark disagreement to this motion. Mr. Speaker, the proposition has fed us a utopian world on a platter of misinformation. We would love to exist in a perfect world. However, we cannot allow ourselves to drown in an idealistic proposal which willfully ignores the dangerous ricochets such a decision will create. But before I continue, I must address the burden of defining exactly what it means to be disabled. According to the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, as well as the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, a disability occurs when a difference in how the typical brain works makes one unable to operate effectively in their environment because of the physical or social conditions. These conditions vary from a physical loss, such as the loss of a finger, to extreme depression, even including intellectual and developmental conditions like Down syndrome and autism, and the more familiar sensory disabilities like blindness or deafness. What we have heard so far from side proposition, therefore, has shown us the inadequacy of their argument. They gravely misunderstood the motion. Their first speaker haphazardly throws around the concept of inclusivity and equality, yet their very own policy negates this attribute. Mr. Speaker, while the intention is noble, the practical implementation of such a mandate poses significant challenges. How do we objectively determine the degree of disability that warrants a higher salary? According to the council, the term is so wide that it encompasses even persons who are depressed. Your first speaker defined the vague policy himself. What criteria will be established to ensure a fair and transparent assessment? Take into consideration the heightened criminal scams and forged medical documents that will result from such a policy. Let us be specific in our policies and take it in context of Jamaica. These questions and concerns highlight the complexities that arise when attempting to operationalize this optimistic but impractical idea. The proposition has failed to provide a policy which promotes fairness across the board. They have established one which defeats its entire purpose. I must emphasize also, ladies and gentlemen, that a person's value to an organization should be based on their skills, qualifications, and achievements, not on their disability status. Introducing a policy that singles out a specific group for higher compensation diminishes the recognition of individual accomplishments. Not only does this fester disparity and resentment, but it undermines the hard work produced by both the able-bodied and disabled. Without a fair incentive, what need is there for productivity? None. In fact, according to ResearchGate.net, studies have shown that employees feel a greater sense of job satisfaction when rewarded with performance-based incentives. When you reward your staff with incentives, it reinforces the idea that hard work pays off, which in turn heightens efficiency and productivity. All this will be lost under the proposition's argument, which presents itself as a self-righteous act of tokenism. The proposition reinforces division and contention with their premature policy, a true insult to the disabled community. We have pioneers of true excellence who remain champions in their own rights. Look at Minister Floyd Morris, the government senator and lecturer at UWI, who is visually impaired. Take a look at Stevie Wonder, the prominent musical artist who topped the records. Pay your attention to Stephen Hawking, the paralyzed theoretical physicist, notorious for his space-time singularities. And finally, let us take a look at even Joe Biden, the President of the United States of America, who is predisposed to a speech impediment. My opponent's proposal is disrespectful and offensive, one which feeds into a stereotype and stigmatizes our talented persons with disabilities. The proposition insinuates a narrative of able-bodied saviors. True inclusivity should focus on creating a workplace culture that values diversity for its inherent benefits, rather than as a checkbox exercise in compensation policies. This begs the question also, adjudicators, of who will provide the funding for such a grand operation. Regardless of the consolidation fund that your first speaker said, proposition, public bodies are paid through the taxes levied onto hardworking citizens. Jamaica already exists under a regressive taxation system and experiences inflation at a whopping 7.8%. Are we to really undermine the structures of equality and make the impoverished in our nation further gripped by poverty simply to cater to a select few? The proposition seems to be ignorant of the fact, judges, that there are already an array of stipulations bound by the law which safeguards disabled rights and distributes welfare to the disabled community without exploiting already exacerbated consolidation fund and taxation systems, draining the pockets of citizens which would further resentment and conflict as per the proposition's policy. Let us pursue on to the Disabilities Act. No employer should deny an otherwise qualified person with a disability employment because of his or her disability. The Disabilities Act goes further to state that employers should also ensure that persons with disabilities under their employer are afforded opportunities for training, transfer, or any other benefits extended to other employees. Healthcare providers are also required by law to provide services without discrimination on the basis of a disability. This aptly showcases genuine inclusivity, which persons with disabilities so greatly need, not a tokenist stunt for public relations and a societal utopian image. And judges, it does not end here. Let us also consider the array of benefits available to persons with disabilities, which the proposition turns a blind eye to. Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Christine Hendricks, assures grants of up to $150,000 per individual, while groups of persons working together can receive up to a whopping $400,000 for their projects, along with assistive aids and devices that can help them to function better in society. Other benefits include therapy sessions, concessionary bus fares with the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, and income tax exemptions in specific cases. The council also gives access to 5% allocation of housing solutions from the National Housing Trust. A $150,000 grant is provided to mortgagors who are disabled or who reside with and are responsible for relatives having a disability. We also have interest rate discounts where disabled persons earning a weekly income of $42,000 or less can access a loan at an interest rate of 0%. If the disabled individual earns $42,000 or more, the interest rate is 2%. A new mortgager who is the parent of a disabled child will benefit from a 2% interest rate. This is true inclusion, judges. What we need is more awareness and improved impetus, which we will implement in our policy, as continued by my second speaker. In closing, be not moved by the proposition's unfounded claims. Striving for equality involves fostering an environment where all individuals, regardless of physical abilities, have an equal opportunity to succeed based on merit. Differential pay based on disability, though well-intentioned, risks becoming a token gesture that may inadvertently perpetuate stereotypes and undermine the principles of fairness and equal treatment. Instead, let our focus be on dismantling barriers, improving accessibility, and creating a workplace culture that values and supports the diverse talents of all employees. Only through such comprehensive efforts can we authentically champion the cause. I thank you.
Impassioned speech from the first speaker from Montego Bay High. We now invite the second speaker from Ocho Rios High to provide the substantive and to continue the debate on that side.
Are you seeing and hearing me clearly?
Indeed.
The first speaker had said that we are only giving the idea of a perfect world. But if nothing is done, the world will only continue to fall, because while able-bodied persons are saving and amounting to millions, the disabled are using the last they have on medical issues, medications, surgeries. So it is not beneficial to them. Mr. Speaker, honorable judges, my learned opponents from Montego Bay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I rise in joining my teammate in proposing the motion that this House would mandate that disabled persons working in public bodies receive a higher salary over their able-bodied counterparts. I will now look at how this initiative will attract disabled persons to public bodies and how this will benefit them. And I will also spend some time to dispel some of the concerns of the opposition. This initiative, ladies and gentlemen, will help to attract disabled persons to the public bodies. Globally, it has been reported that persons with disabilities are disproportionately represented among the poorest, unemployed, low wage, and those with low health status, and lower health levels of educational achievement. The same holds true for PWDs in Jamaica, persons with deficiencies or disabilities in Jamaica, as issues of stigma, discrimination, marginalization, and social exclusion continues to force the population to live in the margins, with the backbenches of our society. This is a sad reality. And the fact is not all of these disabled persons are incapacitated. Some of them have senses that are in good order, and they have much to contribute to the development of our society. Therefore, encouraging them to become members of public bodies gives them financial empowerment, helping them to break the cycle of poverty that many of them find themselves in. Offering this incentive, Mr. Speaker, will also give their caregivers a sense of relief, as many of them find it challenging to care for their needs, and to do so in a way that dignifies these disabled persons. Getting them out to work by means of this initiative will dignify them, give them a sense of purpose, give their lives meaning, giving them worth and value instead of wallowing in guilt and regretting their birth. My opponents may say that this approach may lead to discrimination, but let me remind them that the objective of this policy, this move, is not to discriminate against able-bodied counterparts, as we value and appreciate them, but to acknowledge and address the unique challenges faced by disabled workers. So it is not about devaluing the work able-bodied counterparts, but about addressing the unique circumstances and hurdles that disabled individuals often face. As was highlighted by our first speaker, these may include the need for specialized accommodations, additional medical expenses, or the cost associated with the accessible transportation of all which contribute to a distinct set of challenges that can impact a disabled person's ability to fully participate in the workforce. So we are not discriminating against able-bodied workers, as discrimination implies unfair treatment based on irrelevant or unjust factors. In this case, the intention is to rectify existing disparities and provide reasonable accommodations to ensure equal access opportunities. It is also essential to understand that treating everyone the same does not always result in fairness. Fairness often involves treating individuals differently to account for different needs and circumstances. By offering higher salaries to disabled individuals, we are taking a targeted approach to address the specific challenges they face and create an environment where everyone can thrive. This will give them a level of comfort and sense of appreciation. Let me also, as my first speaker alluded, reaffirm our commitment to this principle of equal pay for equal work. This principle is fundamental to ensuring fairness and justice in the workplace, and it is a cornerstone of our policy. However, the key lies in recognizing that the concept of equal work extends beyond a mere comparison of job titles and duties. It encompasses the bordered context of individuals' needs and challenges. Offering higher salaries to disabled persons is a recognition that achieving equal outcomes sometimes requires acknowledging and rectifying the unequal starting points. It's about creating a level playing field by addressing the additional burdens and costs that disabled individuals may bear. Consider for a moment the scenario of two individuals performing the same job. One is able-bodied and the other has a disability. The work they produce may indeed be equal, but the journey to that point may not be. The disabled individual may face barriers and challenges that able-bodied counterpart does not. By offering a higher salary, we are not diminishing the value of the able-bodied workers' contribution. Rather, we are bridging the gap to ensure that both individuals have an equal opportunity to succeed. So offering disabled persons a higher salary is not a contradiction to the principle of equal pay for equal work. It's an extension of that principle. It is a commitment to creating a workplace where every individual, regardless of their circumstances, has the opportunity to succeed in valued for their contribution. But by understanding and addressing the unique challenges faced by disabled employees, we move closer to a vision of true equality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It's the second speaker. We now invite the second speaker from the team in opposition to extend that case.
Okay. May I begin?
Ready when you're ready.
Okay. The proposition errs. Even if you do not intend to create such problems, such as if you do not intend to create such problems, there are still unintended consequences, and all of your points will be rebutted in my speech. Esteemed judges, teammates, opponents, a pleasant morning to each of you. The opposition firmly holds the belief that endorsing a mandate for higher salaries for disabled individuals employed in public bodies surpassing their able counterparts is not only a misguided attempt at inclusivity, but also an illogical solution to the complex challenges faced by persons with disabilities. The establishment of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities distinctly highlights a commendable goal: assurance of fair and equal treatment for individuals with disabilities. I repeat, fairness and equality. While our upcoming speaker will elaborate on the societal implications at the individual level, I will now explore how this motion lacks fairness and equality at the economic level, inevitably leading to a detrimental impact on society. If persons with a disability receive higher salary in the workplace, it will lead to financial constraints and budget inefficiency. Public bodies, including government agencies and organizations, operate within defined budgets that are allocated to various programs, services, and personnel. Increasing the salaries of a specific group, in this case, disabled individuals, necessitates a redistribution of funds within the organization. However, the broader public may be unwilling to make necessary trade-offs in fund allocation. Consider, for instance, diverting funds from the budget designed for national sanitation towards compensating disabled workers employed in tax offices. Alternatively, reducing grants for social assistance programs like compassionate assistance or the well-known PATH could also be a consequence. If these assistance programs, which also benefit the disabled individuals, experience reductions, it prompts the question of whom this motion truly benefits. While the proposition may present a utopian scenario where financial concerns seem irrelevant, I affirm that in the practical world, resource allocation demands shrewdness and understanding. Even without cutting funds from other programs or services, the burden falls on the general public. It is crucial to remember that government bodies are funded by us, the taxpayers. Persons with disabilities similarly contribute to taxes on their income, just like their able counterparts, yet they are the sole recipients of salary increase. This is economic imbalance waiting to happen. Let us simplify, ladies and gentlemen. Reallocating resources for higher salaries in one group invariably has implications for the salaries or benefits of other employees. This leads to dissatisfaction and financial instability, consequently affecting the public body's capacity to fulfill their obligations and deliver essential services to the public. The opposition also contends that mandating higher salaries for disabled individuals in public bodies could evoke hesitancy among employers, particularly within the government agencies, due to the anticipated financial burdens. Imagine a scenario in a government department where there's a push for mandated higher salaries for disabled employees. The public body, already grappling with budget constraints, might be hesitant to hire disabled individuals, concerned about the strain on its financial resources. Remember, public bodies in Caribbean nations often contend with limited budgets and stringent financial constraints. A mandated salary increase for disabled employees might be perceived as an additional financial burden, leading to apprehension among employers. The fear of impacting the overall financial stability
Point of information. Point of information.
Not at this time. The fear of impacting the overall financial stability of the public body might outweigh the intention to promote inclusivity. This fear of inclusion due to cost concerns not only affects the mental well-being of the disabled, but also exacerbates the existing economic disparity. The proposition may argue that in their status quo, it rectifies economic imbalances for disabled individuals who are already facing economic struggle. However, the opposition disagrees for several reasons. Disabilities vary widely, and individuals working in public bodies are inherently capable of benefiting from a meritocratic policy proposed by the opposition rather than a higher wage policy. The opposition emphasizes the diverse capabilities of individuals with disabilities, challenging the notion that they are inherently unequal.
Point of information.
Not at this time. We further argue that existing policies can address financial burdens such as medical expenses, assistive technologies, and specialized care. Contrary to the notion of mandating higher wages, Canada provides a noteworthy example. The Accessible Canada Act, implemented in 2019, focuses on creating a barrier-free environment for individuals with disabilities without mandating specific wage increase. Canada encourages workforce inclusion through incentives for employers to hire and accommodate individuals with disabilities, along with vocational rehabilitation services and training programs. While Canada's public-funded healthcare system addresses their specific healthcare needs, it does not mandate higher wages. We can follow suit. As our country develops, we should strive for inclusive development that benefits all citizens. The goal is to address inequality without negatively impacting our national budget. It is essential to recognize the potential domino effect: higher wages leading to budget cuts, increased taxation, decreased employment opportunities, disgruntled employees, and an unhappy public. What does that result in? Toppled economic society. Audience, let us navigate towards a balanced and inclusive approach that addresses the concerns of both disabled individuals and the economic stability of our nation. Thank you. And here.
Thank you very much for that. From the second speaker from Montego Bay High School for Girls. At this point in time, we will invite the third speaker from Ocho Rios High to present the last substantive case for the side proposition.
Honorable judges, my astute opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The second speaker stated, that disabled people are benefiting of the able tax. Working disabled people also pays tax. So for you to view them as sitting ducks, benefiting of the able. Second speaker, if you are trying to make it beneficial for all persons, how will it be beneficial to the disabled? Our first speaker has outlined our policy, which will make the mandatory aspect of the policy through the inclusion of higher salaries for persons with disabilities into the Disabled Act. This will be overseen by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, as well as the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. He highlighted that due to the fact that persons with disabilities take up a minute portion of our society, this move would be affordable, especially given the fact that our good fiscal management over the past 2 years. He also
Point of information.
I decline. He also convincingly shows that this move is vital for us to create more equitable and diverse public bodies. He also looked at the assistance this will give to persons with disabilities to cater to their unique needs. Our second speaker spent so much time looking at how this arrangement will motivate disabled persons to pursue jobs in the public bodies and benefit to them. He also cemented the fact that this policy does not take away from the principle of equal pay for equal work, or will contribute to discrimination in another format. Based on what was said by my fellow teammates and comparing what was said by the opposition, I am cocksure we have won this debate. But should there be any doubt in our mind, let me now add some more fuel to the burning fire. And if you can't take the heat, my learned opponents, get out of the kitchen. Let me now highlight for you how our country stands to benefit from having disabled persons in our public bodies, and also how we can break down some of the barriers of getting disabled persons out to work in public bodies. It is true, Mr. Speaker, that disabled individuals often demonstrate remarkable resilience and determination in the face of adversity. Their ability to overcome challenges and navigate a world that is not always accommodating reflects a level of perseverance. This can inspire and motivate the entire workforce. This resilience is a powerful asset in public service, where tenacity and dedication are essential to addressing the diverse needs of the public that the public serves. Secondly, disabled individuals often bring a heightened sense of empathy and understanding to their roles. This empathy can be particularly valuable in public service, where the ability to connect with and advocate for diverse communities is paramount. A workforce that reflects the diversity of the public it serves is better equipped to address the varied needs and concerns of the citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica's Current Disabilities Act was signed into law on February 14, 2022, was pioneered by a blind senator, Senator Floyd Morris. Our blind senator understood the plight of the disabled community and hence lobbied and
Point of information.
I decline for the implementation of the Disabled Act to protect the rights of persons with disabilities. Can you imagine how much more we would be able to accomplish, especially for persons with disabilities, by having disabled persons working in public bodies? Oh, my opponents, it will work miracles. Imagine a municipal corporation with disabled urban planners. Their unique insights into accessible designs and the challenges faced by individuals with mobility issues can contribute significantly to creating more inclusive public spaces. From accessible sidewalks to universally designed public buildings, their expertise ensures that our communities are welcomed by everyone. Or even a public health agency with disabled professionals on its team. Their first-hand knowledge of navigating healthcare systems and their insights into the diverse needs of individuals with disabilities can significantly enhance the development and implementation of inclusive health politics and programs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we need disabled people in public bodies. Hence, this move will serve as a means of motivation to get them out of their homes, get them on board so that we can benefit from what they have to offer for our country. To overcome some of the barriers, Mr. Speaker, so that all in our society can buy into this move, we will host public town hall meetings, run advertising campaigns in both audio and sign language, telling people the benefit of this and encouraging them to get on board. As we build a more equitable and just.
That is elapsed. The time has elapsed. Thank you very much, the third speaker from the Ocho High School. And we now invite the third speaker from Montego Bay High School for girls to close out the substantive part of this interesting debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and all with a rational mind. While the opposition shares the goal of creating a more inclusive and supportive workplace for individuals with disability, we contend that mandating higher salaries is not the most effective and equitable solutions to the challenges faced by our disabled employees. We did say the system does not benefit disabled people, as well as they do pay tax. So your system essentially benefits no one. But before the proposition further undermines the opposition, let us elucidate our rationale. As highlighted by our first speaker, disabilities are a monolithic experience. They vary in nature. Take, for example, an individual who is paralyzed or autistic. Just raising salary does not address the comprehensive challenges they face. It would be more beneficial if those same funds were directed towards enhanced support services, reasonable accommodations, tailored to the specific needs of each individual. Disabilities do not automatically translate to financial need proposition, and adopting a one-size-fits-all approach oversimplifies the challenges faced by disabled individuals in the workforce. A significant oversight in the proposition's plan is the absence of a merit-based system. Our first speaker aptly emphasized the importance of such a system in fair employment practices. Furthermore, the proposition completely fails to adequately address the potential for abuse, particularly concerning invisible disabilities. In today's society, it is not difficult for able-bodied individuals to falsely claim a mental illness or disability for personal gain.
Point of information.
Not accepted. We have witnessed individuals glamorizing disabilities such as the severe depression. So it is reasonable to predict that workers may exploit these invisible disabilities just to secure a higher pay raise. This opens the door to potential fraudulence in their status quo, and the proposition has failed to address the checks and balances required to mitigate this risk. In evaluating the proposal, it is crucial to consider the alignment with the goals of the Ministry of Labour and Security. Our first speaker emphasized that the Workers' Empowerment Act upholds that all workers deserve equal pay for equal contributions. The proposition, however, introduces a distinction based on physical and mental abilities, contradicting the ministry's commitment to inclusivity and equality. Consider a single mother struggling to make ends meet, burdened with the responsibility of supporting 5 children without a disability. In the proposition's world, she is somehow considered less deserving of financial support than an individual with a disability. This is a twisted form of discrimination that defies the basic principles of fairness and, frankly, common sense. The proposition makes it seem as if our disabled counterparts are overlooked in society, ignoring the measures that are already in place to support. The Disabilities Act ensures that individuals with disabilities can perform their duties on an equal footing with their able-bodied counterparts. Therefore, the proposition's insistence on higher salaries appears redundant and unnecessary. The financial challenges associated with the proposition, as emphasized by our second speaker, are enormous. Public budgets are futile and finite, and the lack of clarity on how increased costs will be managed to raise serious concerns. Precisely, there is a valid concern about the proposition's impact on employment opportunities for disabled individuals. While the primary goal of your proposition is to enhance financial well-being, the potential backlash from employers may result in the reluctance to hire the disabled individuals you so advocate for. This is driven by concerns about financial burdens. This could counteract the proposition's need and purpose of promoting and employment opportunities for these individuals with disabilities. In a sense, the proposal is a misguided attempt to address a legitimate concern. While the proposition's intentions may be compassionate, the solution proposed is impractical, divisive, and undermines the very principle of inclusivity they seek to advocate for. True inclusivity demands an approach that recognizes the individuality of each person and provides equal opportunities for all. Existing legal frameworks, as you so have said yourself, include the Workers' Empowerment Act and the Disabilities Act, and the opposition's further accommodation have already offered solutions without the need for a preferential treatment in terms of salary. It is crucial to consider the long-term impacts and ensure that our decisions do not create divisions. In conclusion, let us not lose sight of the real issue at hand: the need for support and understanding of individuals with disabilities in the workplace. The proposition, in pursuit of a quick fix, has lost sight of these essential considerations and has therefore lost this debate. I thank you. Here.
Thank you very much for that. At this point in time, we are going to pause for just 1 minute to allow the finishing touches to be placed on the reply speeches for both teams, after which we will invite the opposition reply speaker to close out the debate on that half. So we will pause for 1 minute. All right. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Timekeeper. Indeed, I've received the prompt that the minute has elapsed. We now invite the opposition reply speaker to close out the debate for the team Montego Bay High School for Girls.
Here, here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the proposed motion falls short of achieving the inclusivity and fairness we all aspire to. The opposition stands firm in its rejection of the policy suggesting that individuals with disabilities working in public bodies should receive higher pay than their able-bodied counterparts. Our stance is rooted in the belief that addressing the challenges faced by people with disabilities requires a comprehensive approach focused on broader policies that promote inclusivity and equal opportunities rather than specific salary mandates. In Jamaica, strides have already been made in addressing the needs of people with disabilities, evident in initiatives such as the concessional bus fare, a 5% allocation from the Housing Trust, a grant of $150,000 for disabled mortgages, and the implementation of the Disabilities Act. Also, proposition should note that if this motion is passed, employers will be hesitant in employing disabled workers because of the financial implications. So the point on motivation to work you keep perpetuating is not feasible because how will they be motivated to work when they have no job? Furthermore, the opposition has proposed viable alternatives to mandated wage increases. These include incentives for employers who hire individuals with disabilities, publicly funded healthcare, vocational training, and rehabilitation services. As articulated by our first speaker, we advocate for a meritocratic approach where compensation is determined by merit and qualifications rather than a personal characteristic such as disability. This emphasizes the importance of skills, experience, and performance in salary determination. Acknowledging the higher cost of living for disabled individuals, our approach aims to address these concerns through targeted financial support. Benefits or tax incentives offer flexibility in meeting individual needs. Contrary to the proposition suggestion, we believe inclusivity involves treating all individuals equally without singling out specific groups for preferential treatment. Learned audience, let us not underscore the universal application of the equal work, equal pay principle, irrespective of disability status. This ensures fairness and inclusivity in the workplace, aligning with the broader goals of promoting a just and equitable society. With this, the opposition rests. Here, here.
Thank you very much for that, Madam Reply Speaker from the opposition. We now invite the reply speaker from the proposition to close out this debate.
Opponents, judges, Mr. Speaker. Their points were strong, but not as strong enough to combat the points that our team provided, that we have proposed. Without further ado, let me get into how they would have fallen short in opposing the move. We understand the Employment Equity Act of 55 of 1998. In this act, it makes provision for people with disabilities that they should be treated fairly, offering them a higher salary. We believe we are treating them fairly. And even if there's a clash, remember, we are the government, so we can suggest amendments to get these acts in line. You have misunderstood our policy. When you say that workers should be paid based on their achievements and skills, wouldn't this push down the disabled persons further economically, with the fact being that based upon their disabilities, it will be more difficult to achieve or uphold a strong skill set? Wouldn't that policy have able-bodied workers outweigh the disabled with their work rate and achievements? When you mention incentive for hard work, are you actually helping us win? How? As I've mentioned in my speech, that the disabled workers will have to work harder to achieve, therefore making them deserving of a higher salary. So when you see a disabled worker producing as much as an able-bodied worker, this gesture will highlight and reward them for their hard work and for being able to maintain the standard regardless of their disability. We understand and agree that disabled persons receive special benefits like that of special mortgage rates. All public sector workers benefit from the provisions, but do not forget, my opponents, that disabled bodied persons receive many special benefits and grants based on their job specifications. No, there would be no need for additional tax and financial burden. Financially, this will not affect us, as this is affordable with the fact, as I've mentioned, that 2.9% economic growth in the first half of 2019 contributed to Jamaica earning more than what is spent, with a surplus of 12.8 million. We are doing well financially as a country. This was seen by the new compensation review. This has enabled public sector officials to receive up to 200% increase in their salaries. Our Ministry of Finance boasted that we can afford it. So let us not forget the disabled community and their unique needs. And I would like to thank you for agreeing with us that disabilities vary in nature. And based on these varieties, it comes with different difficulty levels. So therefore, it would be necessary for a higher salary for them. It is also essential to understand that treating everyone the same does not always result in fairness. Fairness often involves treating individuals differently to account for different needs and circumstances. By offering higher salaries to disabled individuals, we are taking a targeted approach to address the specific challenges they face and create an environment where everyone can thrive. Disabled persons will also be placed in work based on their abilities. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And with that, we conclude the first semi-final match of the JCSA High School Debate competition between Montego Bay High School for Girls and the Ocho Rios High. Indeed, it was a lovely debate. Let us remind the viewers what is at stake here. We are talking about advancing to the finals, the grand finals, which will be held on November 20th. Of course, even if a team doesn't advance to the grand finals, they still have the opportunity to win big. Because our third place team, based on speaker points, will also be invited to the grand finals, and they'll be receiving prizes, cash, and awards. So indeed, this was a semi-finals caliber match, and we look forward to see which team goes on and which team will be competing based on your speaker points for the third place ranking. At this point in time, the judges will excuse ourselves to one of the breakout rooms. So a breakout room will be deliberating, and we will return to you shortly with our decision. Judges, let us head over to room 2. At this point, while we're gone, we invite the debaters to unmute the mics and have some discussion for the pleasures of our viewing audience while the judges excuse themselves to room 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome back. Thank you for that. Do we have the team Montego Bay High School for girls and the team Ocho Rios High School? Are both teams here?
Yes, we are
Our
still here.
representative is here, but two of my members are gone.
Okay, I understand. All right. So, at the end of deliberation, the judges have come up with the results. And I won't belabor the point too long. You see, the team that we sought won this debate by a unanimous decision from the panel. All members of the panel agreed. We think that the winners of this match, the ones who will be the first team heading into the finals of the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2023, is the team in opposition, Montego Bay High Schools for girls. Congratulations. Congratulations, Montego Bay High School for girls. I think you did a very excellent job, which means that the team that will not be advancing to the finals is the team Ocho Rios High School. Of course, depending on the points, the team Ocho Rios High School might still very well get an invitation to the event as the third place team. So why is it that the judges made the call the way we made the call? We heard a lot of ideas formulated and being positive throughout the debate, but we think it came down to four main clashes. The first clash that we thought it came down to was the question of affordability. Is this something that we can afford? We heard from the team in proposition that Jamaica made a surplus and in 2019 and that we can get the funds from the consolidation program. But we thought that just because we made a surplus in 1 year does not necessitate that we have a continuous, sustainable amount of money to ensure that we can afford this going forward. But what we did enjoy from hearing from the proposition is that the government has before made strides and boasted that it can indeed afford this, as seen with the public sector wage review. And we said that the Ministry of Finance boldly boasted that we can do it, so let us do it. And we thought that argument when combined with this idea that Jamaica is better than we have been before, is some deep appreciation, provided the judges with some level of comfort and appreciation and confidence that we can afford this. Mark you, we weren't utmost convinced, but we were confident that, yeah, we can afford it if it is that it is justified. And that's the key point, if it is justified. We heard from Montego Bay High that, listen, consolidated fund or not, it is going to come from the taxpayers, and it is the taxpayers who are going to suffer, and it is unfair. On that measure, we thought that the question of affordability was actually a tie, because we believe that maybe the government can afford it. The question comes down to, should the government be doing this? And if we can afford it, where is the money going to come from? Consolidated fund or from the taxpayers? At the end of the day, the judges saw that that was the weakest clash in the debate, the question of affordability, whether we can afford it or not. What really matters, in as much as the judges were convinced that maybe we can afford it, is if the burden of affording it was worth it. The justification was worth it. And that is where our other three contentions come in. The justification. We heard the idea of equity. The question of equity was another lovely clash that we saw in this debate. We heard from the team in opposition that there's already a bunch of benefits, and they went on a campaign of reinforcing from the opposition, went on a campaign of reinforcing the numerous amounts of benefits that already exist in status quo, the bus fare subsidies, income tax exemption, free houses from the NHT, lower interest rates on mortgages, discount here and discount there, and allotments galore. And on that measure, there already exists some significant amount of equity in status quo, in as much as the government goes out of their way to provide these services for the individual. We heard, however, from the team in proposition that disabilities exist on a spectrum. They are wide and varied, and a one-size-fits-all measure is not one that is going to help everyone. We heard from the proposition that give people the salary increases, the individual disabled person will know exactly what it is that they need to do with their money to make their life better. The role of government, the government will not be able to completely appreciate the intricacies and nuances of every single individual. And so it is the best outcome to give the money directly to the disabled person. On the question of equity, where do we get the most equity? We saw that proposition actually won, and that's team in Ontario. Give them the money, let them decide what it is that they need to do with the money. I think that would have been a sufficient argument from the team in proposition to win them on that clash. Then we got to the next clash, the clash of meritocracy, right? We heard from the opposition that it should be who creates the most value for the government. That is who should be paid more. They didn't just tell us that philosophically that should be the case. They told us that what happens when that is not the case. Again, both sides conceded that disabilities exist on a spectrum. There's a wide array of disabilities. And we heard from the team in opposition that when we don't have a meritocracy, a strict meritocracy, that can actually cause resentment in the public bodies. We heard from them that when it is that we have somebody who gets paid simply by the virtue of being disabled, that will cause other individuals who are hardworking, who are putting out their best efforts to feel unappreciated, to feel undermined, and that will build up some level of resentment within the public sector. And that is an outcome that we don't want. We want to pay people based on the value that they produce. Proposition would not have it though. Proposition undermined that argument. And I think proposition did a good job in undermining that argument, but not sufficient enough for them to have won that clash. Proposition said, listen, they work harder. The disabled individuals work harder. So even if it is that their output is equivalent or less than the able-bodied participants, true meritocracy is awarding individuals for their work, for the effort that goes into their work more specifically. That was the undermining from proposition. The true meritocracy comes from the effort that goes into their work. And as much as the disabled people are working harder for the same results, that in and of itself needs to be compensated. Compensate their effort, not necessarily their output. When we weighed those two arguments, the judges unanimously agreed that opposition would have substantiated the idea more, that even if it is that it is more effort being put into place, measurable results are what matter. And at the end of the day, the individuals who are working hard to produce more value, objectively more value, will feel resentment at being paid less than their counterpart who are producing less value. And on that clash, we thought that the team, Montego Bay High, would have won on the argument of meritocracy. Pay the people for their output, their value, because the outcomes are catastrophic. And lastly, the big idea of this debate that we summarize into the beautiful subtopic, the beautiful clash of consequences. What is the outcome that we get from implementing these policies? We heard the benefits from team proposition, that we get new perspectives, different levels of empathy and motivation, new ideas. They listed a lot of individuals. Who come into the workplace. For example, the senator, we saw was a very good example of how the senator's unique experience and unique perspective allowed him to create a policy, a bill, or some sort of mechanism that served the disabled community greatly. However, opposition said to us that it doesn't matter because governments operate under a budget. And in as much as there is now a financial burden on hiring a disabled person, they're going to be less incentivized to do so. And so all the benefits that you get from increasing salaries are undermined if those people don't have jobs, if the employers, if the government is less likely to hire these people simply because of the fact that it is more expensive. And so you will get those benefits from side proposition to fewer people, which will lead to a worse outcome. That argument, I think, is an argument that Ochoria should have prioritized in undermining. That argument, I feel, was a brilliantly positive argument, brilliantly explained that at the end of the day, when we weigh all the benefits and all the drawbacks, what ultimately matters is whether or not the disabled people will enjoy these benefits. And we heard that all the negative implications that we get from having a higher salary increase will exist, combined with the fact that you'll have less disabled persons actually participating to the workforce. Contradiction, right? In contradiction to exactly what it is that we want, which is more disabled persons in the workplace. We thought that that argument is one that needed to have been contended with by Ocherius High. And so on that matter, we believe that the argument of consequences and outcome would have been won by the team in opposition. And therefore, that is the rationale that the judges have come up with. That is the reasons why the Montego Bay High School for Girls will be the finalists in the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2023. I want to say, Ocherius High, excellent effort. You contended with the ideas, you rebutted the arguments, and you defended your case. You missed out on one of the most critical and crucial arguments, but nevertheless, Ocherius High, we thought that you did an excellent job. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first semifinals match of this that we'll be having today. We know who one of our finalists are, Montego Bay High School for Girls. The question now is who will be the second finalist, which you'll have to tune in at 1 p.m. to find out, and who will be the third place finishing team based, of course, on their performance in their semifinals debate. Ocherius, you might just be coming to the finals, indeed. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure. We invite the teams to open up their mics and to congratulate each other for an excellent debate.
One question, the best speaker for this room.
Indeed. The best speaker for this debate came from the side, Montego Bay High School for Girls, and that was the first speaker, Kimberly Sims.
Thank you so much and congratulations, Ocherius High. Job well done.
Yeah.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed this debate. I hope that in the future I'll get to come back again and that you guys will see our improvements. We shall work and
For
strive
sure.
for it.
Same.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we now conclude the first semifinals, and look forward to seeing you later on today, same platform, YouTube, at 1 p.m. Take care.